Growing up, my family was close, messy and chaotic, but close. Amanda, my older sister, always had a maternal streak. She's 8 years older than me, so she practically helped raise me. When she had Jack, her son, it felt like the family dynamic shifted a little. Suddenly, everything revolved around her as the first sibling to have kids. I was okay with it at first. Jack's a cute kid, and I love being an uncle. But then came Ryan. We've been dating for about a year, and to me, it's the most serious relationship I've ever had. Ryan's great with kids and has a calm, easygoing vibe that even Jack seemed to like. At least, I thought so until last month. It started at a family barbecue, just a regular, low-key afternoon in Amanda's backyard. Ryan and I were there together, just hanging out and chatting like everyone else. There wasn't anything special about the day, at least not until Amanda pulled me aside as we were cleaning up. "Hey," she said, in that awkward, hesitant tone she uses when she doesn't want to offend anyone but also doesn't want to hear an argument. "I just wanted to talk to you about something." "Sure," I said, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "What's up?" Amanda glanced around, as if making sure no one else could hear us. Then she sighed. "I was thinking, maybe it would be better if you didn't bring Ryan to the next few family gatherings." I blinked, completely caught off guard. "What? Why?" "It's just. Jack's been asking questions about you and Ryan. I don't think he's old enough to understand all that yet." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I could feel my cheeks flush as I tried to keep my voice steady. "What do you mean, all that? We're not exactly putting on a pride parade in your yard. We were literally just eating hot dogs and talking to family." Amanda shifted uncomfortably. "I know, but you know how kids are. It's confusing for him." "Confusing?" That word kept echoing in my head. Jack's 4 years old. He's already learning about relationships just by watching Amanda and her husband, Mike. But somehow, seeing me with Ryan, just sitting next to each other, talking, was confusing. I wanted to yell, to tell her how insulting and narrow-minded she was being. But instead, I kept my cool. If Ryan isn't welcome, maybe I just won't come either. Amanda sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "You're being dramatic." And with that, she walked away, leaving me standing there, holding the dish towel, wondering if this was the sister I thought I knew. That conversation set the tone for everything that followed, and trust me, it only got messier from there. After Amanda dropped that bombshell at the barbecue, I felt like my entire relationship with her had shifted. It wasn't just her awkward phrasing or the dismissive, "you're being dramatic," comment, it was the implication behind it. She thought my relationship with Ryan, a guy who's done nothing but show respect and kindness to my family, was somehow inappropriate for her son to witness. I replayed her words in my head the entire drive home. "Kids are confused by love," Amanda had essentially said. But were they? Or was that just her excuse for her own discomfort? Ryan could tell something was wrong as soon as we got in the car. "What's up?" he asked, glancing over at me as I stared out the window. I hesitated. "How do you explain to your boyfriend that your own sister doesn't want him around because she thinks he's a bad influence?" Finally, I sighed. "Amanda doesn't want you coming to family events anymore." Ryan blinked in surprise. "What? Why?" I told him everything, her comment about Jack being confused, the weird tone she had, and how she brushed me off when I tried to push back. By the end, I could see the hurt in his eyes, even though he tried to hide it. "Do you want me to stop coming?" he asked quietly. "Of course not," I said immediately. "If she has a problem, that's on her. I'm not going to pretend like our relationship is something to be ashamed of just to make her comfortable." Ryan nodded, but the tension lingered. I hated that Amanda had dragged him into this. He didn't deserve to feel unwelcome, especially not from my family. Over the next few weeks, things were awkward between Amanda and me. I avoided texting her, and she didn't reach out either. It felt like a silent standoff, neither of us willing to address the elephant in the room. That is, until she called me one Friday night, completely panicked. "Hey, I know this is last minute, but my babysitter canceled, and I really need someone to watch Jack tomorrow. Can you help?" I almost laughed at the irony. She didn't want me bringing Ryan to family events, but now she was fine with me babysitting her kid? Still, I bit my tongue. "Sorry, Amanda," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Ryan and I already have plans." "Please," she begged. "I don't have anyone else to call, and I really can't cancel my plans. I'll owe you big time." I could feel my patience snapping. "Why do you even want me to babysit Jack?" What if I accidentally expose him to my terrifying gay lifestyle? God forbid he sees me and Ryan together. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then Amanda exploded. This isn't about Ryan, she snapped. It's about you being spiteful and using Jack to make a point. You're punishing him because you're mad at me. Are you serious right now? I shot back. You're the one who started all this by acting like my relationship is something inappropriate for Jack to see. Don't try to turn this around on me. But Amanda wasn't having it. You're acting like a child, she spat. Grow up and stop making everything about you. I hung up before I could say something I'd regret. My hands were shaking, and my heart was pounding. How had things escalated this quickly? That night, I told Ryan about the call. He listened quietly, nodding as I vented about Amanda's audacity. I'm sorry, he said when I was done. This isn't fair to you. It's not fair to you either, I pointed out. You didn't do anything to deserve this. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the situation pressing down on us. I didn't know what the next family gathering would look like, or if I even wanted to go. But one thing was clear, Amanda had crossed a line, and I wasn't sure how to move forward from here. Just when I thought things couldn't get messier, Amanda decided to air our private argument in the family group chat. To be clear, this was not just a casual, hey, let's keep the peace, type of message. No, she went straight for the jugular. It started with a single message. Amanda, I need to address something since it's clearly becoming an issue. My name is refusing to babysit Jack because he's mad at me, and I don't think it's fair to drag my son into our disagreement. Cue the virtual gasps. The chat immediately lit up with the little, typing bubbles as everyone scrambled to take sides. Uncle Rob, wait, what's going on? Why can't my name babysit? Amanda, he's mad because I asked him not to bring Ryan to family events for a while. I just didn't think it was appropriate for Jack at his age. And there it was. She didn't even try to sugarcoat it. I decided to jump in before things spiraled further. Amanda, let's not twist this. You made it clear you think my relationship is somehow confusing for Jack. That's not about babysitting, it's about respect. The chat went silent for a moment. Then, of course, Uncle Rob had to chime in. Uncle Rob, it's not homophobic to want to protect your kid from topics they're not ready for. Why push it? I was fuming, but before I could respond, my cousin Sarah swooped in like an ally sent from the heavens. Sarah, protect him from what, exactly? Love? If Jack is old enough to understand that Amanda and Mike are married, then he's old enough to understand Uncle, my name, has a boyfriend. Stop acting like this is some big scandal. Her response was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Amanda, this isn't about being homophobic. It's about making things less complicated for my kid. Sarah, you don't even have kids, you wouldn't understand. Sarah, I don't need kids to know when someone's being a hypocrite. You're fine letting Jack see your marriage, but suddenly, my name's relationship is too much? Give me a break. Then came the name calling. Amanda, you don't know what you're talking about, so stay out of it. Sarah, you're a stuck-up bitch, Amanda. Someone had to say it. At this point, Uncle Rob decided to defend Amanda. Uncle Rob, Sarah, stop being a drama queen. Amanda's just trying to do what's best for her son. Why can't you all just respect her wishes? That only made Sarah angrier. Sarah, why don't you stop enabling her outdated beliefs, Uncle Rob? This isn't about Jack, it's about her own prejudices. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, my aunt, Uncle Rob's wife, jumped in. Aunt Linda, I don't agree with my name's lifestyle, but this isn't the way to handle it. Family should support each other. Oh, great. Now my lifestyle was being debated. Grandma, support doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Everyone needs to calm down and stop attacking Amanda. At this point, my phone was practically vibrating off the table from all the notifications. I decided to step away and let them duke it out. The group chat was like a toxic reality show, and I was the unwilling star. Later that evening, Ryan and I read through the messages together. He couldn't help but laugh at some of the more ridiculous comments, like Sarah calling Amanda a stuck-up bitch and Uncle Rob accusing her of being a drama queen. Your family really knows how to escalate, Ryan said, shaking his head. I sighed. Welcome to the circus. As much as the group chat debacle was a disaster, it was also a weirdly validating moment. For the first time, I wasn't the only one standing up to Amanda. Sarah had my back, and even though her delivery wasn't exactly graceful, her point was clear: love isn't confusing, prejudice is. The question was, where did we go from here? After the chaotic group chat fiasco, I thought maybe things would settle down for a bit. But Amanda's husband, Mike, decided to weigh in. Unlike Amanda, who had been loud and unapologetically defensive, Mike was more measured, or at least, that's what he wanted me to believe. It started with a private text from him. "Mike, hey, my name, I hope you're doing okay. I just wanted to say I don't have an issue with you or Ryan, but this situation is getting out of hand. Amanda isn't trying to be disrespectful, she's just trying to avoid awkward questions from Jack. I hope you can understand that." I stared at the message for a minute, debating how to respond. Mike had always been the more level-headed one in their relationship, but this felt like a weak attempt to play both sides. Finally, I replied. I get that you're trying to keep the peace, but you need to see how hurtful this is. Amanda's essentially saying my relationship is something inappropriate for Jack to see. Would she say the same thing if I were dating a woman? The message stayed on scene for over an hour with no reply. Typical. The next day, I ran into my dad while grabbing coffee. He had been staying out of the drama for the most part, but I could tell he had something to say. "Mike called me last night," he started. "He's trying to smooth things over, but I told him Amanda needs to apologize if she wants this to blow over." I blinked in surprise. My dad had always been a bit old-fashioned, but he had consistently supported me and Ryan. It was nice to know he was still in my corner. "What did he say?" I asked. "He said Amanda's just trying to protect Jack from topics he's not ready for. I told him kids aren't confused by love, they're confused by people acting like it's something to hide." He didn't have much to say after that. Hearing that gave me a little hope. At least someone in my family was willing to challenge Amanda's mindset directly. Later that evening, Mike finally replied to my text. "Mike, I get where you're coming from. I'll talk to Amanda about it again, but I can't promise she'll change her mind. She's really set on this being about what's best for Jack." I rolled my eyes. It was the same excuse over and over again. How was excluding Ryan from family events supposed to be best for Jack? If anything, it sent the message that love between two men was somehow wrong or less valid. Ryan, ever the calm one, tried to put things in perspective. "Mike probably feels stuck between you and Amanda," he said. "He doesn't want to pick a side, so he's just trying to keep things from exploding even more." "I get that," I admitted. "But it's hard to respect someone who stays silent when they know what's happening is wrong. He's enabling her." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, I can see that. Still, maybe him talking to her will help. You never know." I wasn't so sure, but I decided to let it go for the moment. There was already enough drama without me adding fuel to the fire. The next family gathering was looming, and I had no idea what to do. Should I go without Ryan to keep the peace? Or should I stand my ground and skip it altogether? Part of me wanted to confront Amanda again, but I also knew it wouldn't change her mind. She was too wrapped up in her own misguided ideas about protecting Jack to see the bigger picture. For now, I decided to wait and see if Mike's talk with her led to any changes. Spoiler alert, it didn't. After Mike's noncommittal response, I tried to move on with my life. Ryan and I stuck to our plans and stayed busy, but the tension with Amanda lingered in the back of my mind. I hadn't heard from her since the group chat meltdown, and I wasn't exactly eager to break the silence. My mom, of course, couldn't let things rest. A few days later, she called me. "Mom, have you spoken to Amanda yet? She's really upset." "No, Mom. She hasn't called me either, so I guess we're at a stalemate." She sighed dramatically, the kind of sigh only a mother can perfect. "Mom, you know, this isn't worth tearing the family apart. Can't you two just talk and work it out? I hate seeing my kids like this." Her guilt-tripping was impressive, but I wasn't about to cave. I'll talk to her when she apologizes. Until then, I don't have much to say." "Mom, she's not going to apologize if you're holding a grudge. She's trying to do what's best for Jack." There it was again, this mythical, best for Jack argument. I couldn't help myself. Why does what's best for Jack always mean excluding Ryan and invalidating my relationship? How is that good for anyone, let alone Jack? Mom hesitated, but instead of addressing my point, she pivoted. "Mom, you're both being stubborn. Just call her and be the bigger person." I ended the call shortly after, frustrated but unsurprised. My mom had always been a peacemaker, even if it meant glossing over the real issue. Meanwhile, Amanda's silence continued. She wasn't texting, calling, or even lurking in the family group chat. It was like she'd retreated into her own bubble. Part of me wondered if she was waiting for me to reach out, but I wasn't about to give her that satisfaction. Ryan noticed the shift, too. "Do you think she's just embarrassed?" he asked one evening while we were cooking dinner. I shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe she thinks ignoring me will make me cave first." "She's playing chicken with the wrong person," Ryan said with a small grin. "You're way too stubborn." "Damn right," I replied, though deep down, I hated the tension. Despite everything, Amanda was still my sister. I didn't want to be at odds with her forever, but I also couldn't let her off the hook. A week passed, and then another. The next family gathering was rapidly approaching, and I still hadn't decided whether to go. On one hand, I missed seeing my family, well, most of them. On the other hand, I couldn't stomach the idea of pretending everything was fine. Amanda's husband, Mike, broke the silence first. He texted me again, this time with a different tone. "Mike, hey, just checking in. I know things are tense right now, but I hope you'll still come to the gathering. Jack keeps asking if you'll be there." This hit me harder than I expected. Jack was just a kid, caught in the middle of all this drama, and I hated the idea of disappointing him. Still, I couldn't ignore the bigger issue. I miss Jack, but Amanda made it clear she doesn't want Ryan there. I'm not going to choose between my family and my boyfriend. That's not fair to either of us. Mike didn't reply immediately, but when he did, his message was short. "Mike, I get it. I'll talk to Amanda again." That night, I told Ryan about the conversation. "Do you think I should go if Amanda still doesn't budge?" I asked. Ryan paused, considering his words carefully. "I think you have to decide what's more important, standing your ground or being there for the rest of your family. But whatever you choose, I'll support you." It was the perfect answer, but it didn't make my decision any easier. The family gathering was only days away, and I was running out of time to decide. Would I stand firm and skip it, or show up solo and risk feeling like a second-class family member? The day of the family gathering arrived, and I was still undecided. Ryan noticed my restless pacing as I switched between tidying up the apartment and scrolling aimlessly on my phone. "You're going, aren't you?" Ryan finally asked, leaning against the kitchen counter with a knowing look. I sighed. "I don't know. I miss my dad and Jack, but I feel like showing up without you is just giving Amanda what she wants." Ryan set down his coffee and crossed the room, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone, least of all Amanda. If you want to go, go. But don't let her guilt or pressure dictate your decision." He was right, of course, but that didn't make it any easier. I wanted to see my family, but not at the expense of my principles, or my relationship. About an hour before the gathering started, my dad called. "Dad, hey, kiddo. Just wanted to check if you're coming today. Jack keeps asking when you'll get here." Hearing that made my chest ache. Jack was my little buddy, and I hated the idea of disappointing him. But then I remembered Amanda's ultimatum and felt the anger bubbling up again. I don't know, Dad. Amanda made it clear that Ryan isn't welcome, and I don't feel right showing up alone. Dad, I get it. Believe me, I do. But sometimes, you have to pick your battles. You've made your point, and everyone knows where you stand. If you skip this, it might just give Amanda more ammunition to paint you as the unreasonable one. It wasn't the advice I expected, but it gave me something to think about. In the end, I decided to go. Ryan gave me an encouraging smile as I grabbed my keys. "You've got this," he said. "Just remember, you're there for the people who love and support you, not the ones who don't." With that in mind, I headed out, determined to focus on the positive. When I arrived at my parents' house, Jack came barreling toward me with a huge grin. "Uncle, my name," he shouted, throwing his little arms around my legs. "Hey, buddy." I scooped him up and spun him around, feeling some of the tension melt away. My mom greeted me with her usual overly enthusiastic smile, clearly relieved that I had shown up. Amanda, on the other hand, avoided eye contact altogether. The atmosphere was awkward but manageable. I spent most of the time hanging out with Jack, playing with his toys and answering his endless stream of questions about dinosaurs and superheroes. At one point, Amanda finally approached me. She looked nervous, her usual bravado nowhere to be found. "Amanda, hey. Thanks for coming." I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't think I would." She hesitated. I wasn't sure. I know things have been tense. That's one way to put it, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Amanda shifted uncomfortably. Look, I didn't mean to make you feel unwelcome. Jack's still so little, you know. I didn't want to confuse him. I stared at her for a moment, trying to decide how to respond. Finally, I said, Amanda, kids aren't confused by love. They're confused by people acting like love is something to hide. Her face flushed, and for a split second, I thought she might actually apologize. But instead, she muttered, I'll think about that, and walked away. The rest of the evening passed without incident, though the tension between Amanda and me lingered. My dad gave me a reassuring pat on the back as I left, while my mom whispered, thank you for coming. It meant a lot to everyone. As I drove home, I felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was glad I went and spent time with my family. On the other hand, Amanda's stubbornness was as infuriating as ever. When I got home, Ryan was waiting for me. How was it? He asked, handing me a cup of tea. Better than I expected, but not by much, I admitted. Amanda still doesn't get it, but at least I didn't let her win. Ryan smiled. That's what matters. You stood your ground and showed up for the people who care about you. The morning after the gathering, I woke up to find my phone flooded with notifications. The family group chat had apparently exploded overnight, and I braced myself for what I was about to read. It started with Amanda posting a long, rambling message. Amanda, I just want to say I'm glad, my name, came yesterday, but I think it's clear we still have some unresolved issues. I'm trying to do what's best for Jack, and I feel like that's being completely ignored. I'm not trying to be hurtful, but I feel like my perspective is being dismissed because it's easier to call me narrow-minded. Her message was followed by several replies, most of which ranged from neutral to outright critical. Cousin Sarah, Amanda, no one's dismissing you, but you need to realize that your idea of best for Jack comes off as hurtful. Love is love. Jack's not going to be scarred by seeing his uncle with his boyfriend. Uncle Gary, I think Amanda has a point. Kids don't need to be exposed to everything at once. Let's not act like she's being unreasonable here. Cousin Sarah, oh, come on, Gary. You're just doubling down because you still think gay is a bad word. This isn't about protecting Jack, it's about Amanda's comfort zone. Mom, everyone, please calm down. This is a family issue, and we should be supporting each other, not tearing each other apart. I scrolled through the chaos, equal parts amused and annoyed. Finally, I decided to jump in. Amanda, I understand that you're trying to do what you think is best for Jack. But have you stopped to consider how your actions affect me? You're asking me to hide a fundamental part of my life to make things easier for you. That's not fair. Jack isn't confused by me and Ryan, he's confused by the adults around him treating us like a problem. The chat went quiet for a few minutes before Amanda finally replied. Amanda, I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't want Jack to feel uncomfortable or ask questions I'm not ready to answer. Then maybe it's time to get ready. Jack's going to encounter all kinds of people and situations as he grows up. Sheltering him from reality isn't going to help him, it's going to make him more confused in the long run. To my surprise, my dad chimed in next. Dad, Amanda, I agree with him. It's not fair to expect him to hide his relationship for your convenience. Jack is a smart kid. If you explain things in an age-appropriate way, he'll understand just fine. Amanda didn't reply, but the conversation seemed to die down after that. I closed the chat, feeling a strange mix of relief and frustration. Later that day, Amanda called me. I hesitated for a moment before answering, unsure of what to expect. Amanda, hey. Hey. There was an awkward pause before she continued. Amanda, I've been thinking about what you said. About Jack and everything. I guess I just don't know how to explain it to him without making it weird. I sighed, softening slightly. Amanda, it's only weird if you make it weird. You don't have to give him a full lecture on LGBTQ+ rights. Just tell him the truth, Uncle, my name, loves Ryan, just like you love Mike. She was quiet for a moment before responding. I'll try. I don't want us to keep fighting over this. Me neither, I admitted. But it's going to take more than words, Amanda. I need to see that you're actually willing to change. After we hung up, I felt cautiously optimistic. Amanda still had a long way to go, but at least she seemed willing to take a step in the right direction. Ryan was proud of me for standing my ground, and I was proud of myself too. Amanda's call left me feeling cautiously hopeful, but I wasn't ready to let my guard down entirely. Trusting her to change felt like stepping onto thin ice. One wrong move, and everything could crack. The first test came a week later. Amanda invited me and Ryan to her house for dinner. She didn't specify that Ryan was invited, but she didn't say he wasn't either. When I texted her to clarify, her response was surprisingly nonchalant. "Amanda, of course, he's welcome. Bring Ryan along." I showed the message to Ryan, who raised an eyebrow. "You think she's serious, or is this a trap?" "Only one way to find out," I said with a nervous laugh. We arrived at Amanda's house that Saturday evening, my stomach tied in knots the entire drive there. Ryan, ever the optimist, kept cracking jokes to lighten the mood, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go wrong. When we walked in, Amanda greeted us with a smile that seemed a little too forced. Mike gave Ryan a friendly handshake, and Jack came running to hug me as usual. "Uncle, my name. Did you bring me a toy?" "Nope, just my boyfriend," I teased, pointing to Ryan. Jack gave Ryan a shy wave before running back to his pile of toys. Amanda watched the interaction closely, her expression unreadable. Dinner was a surprisingly smooth affair. Ryan charmed everyone with his humor, and even Amanda seemed to loosen up a bit. Jack, being a curious 4-year-old, eventually asked the question I'd been dreading. "Uncle, my name, why does Ryan come with you all the time?" Amanda froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. I felt every eye at the table shift to me, but I kept my voice calm and casual. "Because he's my boyfriend, buddy. Just like your mom and dad are married, Ryan and I are together." Jack nodded as if that made perfect sense and went back to eating his mashed potatoes. Amanda let out a small, audible sigh, and I caught her exchanging a look with Mike. After dinner, as we were getting ready to leave, Amanda pulled me aside. "Amanda, thanks for coming. I know I've been difficult, but I'm trying. It's just going to take some time." I appreciate that. But it's not just about time, Amanda. It's about effort. Actions matter more than words. She nodded, looking a bit chastened. "I get that. I'll do better." On the way home, Ryan turned to me with a smirk. "So, that wasn't a disaster." "High praise," I said dryly, but I couldn't help smiling. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Amanda was starting to understand. The dinner at Amanda's house felt like progress, but in the days that followed, it became clear that the rest of the family wasn't as eager to move forward. Amanda's newfound efforts to accept Ryan were met with skepticism and resistance from some corners of the family, reigniting tensions that had barely cooled. The drama kicked off in the group chat, of course. My grandmother, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the previous arguments, suddenly weighed in. "Grandma, Amanda, it's good that you're trying to make peace, but let's not pretend like this isn't a sensitive topic. Kids don't need to know everything all at once. Why rush them into understanding things they're not ready for?" This prompted a fiery response from Sarah. "Sarah, oh, here we go again with the 'kids can't handle it' excuse. Jack is 4, not a baby. If he can understand straight couples, he can understand gay couples. This isn't rocket science, Grandma. Uncle Gary, Sarah, you don't have kids, so maybe sit this one out. Amanda's just trying to protect Jack's innocence." Gary, protecting innocence is a thinly veiled way of saying you're uncomfortable. Kids aren't born with prejudice, they learn it from adults who make love seem like something shameful. The group chat spiraled into chaos from there. My aunt chimed in with her usual passive-aggressive remarks, while my cousin Sarah continued to passionately defend me and Ryan. At one point, Amanda even tried to mediate. "Amanda, guys, can we please stop arguing? I'm trying to work on this, and the constant fighting isn't helping anyone." But it was too late, the floodgates were open. The real shock came later that evening when my mom called me. "Mom, I just got off the phone with your grandmother. She's upset about how you're talking to people in the group chat." What did I say that was so upsetting? That I won't tolerate people acting like my relationship is something to hide? "Mom, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. You're coming across as confrontational, and it's making things worse." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Mom, do you hear yourself? Everyone's allowed to criticize me and Ryan, but the moment I defend myself, I'm the bad guy." She sighed. "That's not what I'm saying. I just think you need to pick your battles. Grandma's old-fashioned, and Gary's just, well, Gary. You're not going to change their minds by arguing with them. I'm not trying to change their minds, I snapped. I'm trying to stand up for myself. If that makes them uncomfortable, that's their problem, not mine. The conversation ended on a tense note, leaving me feeling drained and frustrated. Ryan noticed my mood and pulled me into a hug. Hey, he said softly. You're doing the right thing. It's not easy, but you're standing your ground. That's what matters. I nodded, but the weight of the family's disapproval still lingered. Over the next few days, the group chat quieted down, but the rift in the family was palpable. My dad and Sarah were firmly in my corner, while others seemed to be walking on eggshells. Amanda, to her credit, continued to make small but meaningful efforts to include Ryan, but it was clear that some members of the family were still struggling to come to terms with the situation. Despite the setbacks, I was determined to keep pushing forward. I wasn't just fighting for myself and Ryan, I was fighting for a future where no one in our family would have to feel ashamed or excluded for being who they are. The uneasy truce within the family didn't last long. As Amanda made more of an effort to include Ryan, some family members became increasingly vocal about their discomfort. The tension came to a head at my grandmother's birthday party, where everyone, Ryan included, was invited. Ryan and I arrived early to help set up, hoping to make a good impression. Amanda greeted us warmly, which felt like a small victory, but Grandma's frosty reception set the tone for the evening. Grandma, oh, you brought Ryan again. I see. Me, yes, Grandma, I did. He's part of my life. She pursed her lips and muttered something under her breath before walking away. As more guests arrived, the atmosphere grew increasingly awkward. Some family members avoided us altogether, while others made thinly veiled comments about traditional values and how things used to be. Ryan handled it all with grace, but I could see the tension in his jaw as he plastered on a polite smile. Then came the inevitable moment of confrontation. Jack, being his curious self, loudly asked, "Grandma, why doesn't Uncle, my name, have a wife like Mommy and Daddy?" The room went silent. All eyes turned to Grandma, who hesitated before replying, "Well, sweetie, some people just make different choices." I couldn't hold my tongue. It's not a choice, Grandma. Ryan and I are together because we love each other, just like Amanda and Mike. The tension in the room was palpable. Amanda stepped in, trying to smooth things over. Jack, Uncle, my name, and Ryan love each other, just like Mommy and Daddy do. It's perfectly normal. Grandma looked visibly upset but said nothing, retreating to the kitchen. As the evening wore on, the divide in the family became increasingly apparent. My dad and Sarah stuck close to us, while others made little effort to hide their disapproval. At one point, Uncle Gary cornered me near the dessert table. "Gary, do you really have to make everything about your lifestyle? This is Grandma's birthday, not a pride parade." Me, Gary, being myself isn't a lifestyle. It's just who I am. And if that bothers you, maybe you should take a look at why that is. He shook his head, muttering something about the younger generation, before walking away. The final straw came when Grandma made a toast. She thanked everyone for coming but pointedly excluded Ryan in her acknowledgments. "It's so wonderful to have all my family here," she said, her eyes deliberately skipping over us. Ryan squeezed my hand under the table, but I'd had enough. After the toast, I pulled Amanda aside. "Me, I can't do this anymore. If Grandma and Gary can't even acknowledge Ryan, why should we keep showing up?" Amanda looked pained. "I know it's hard, but things won't get better if you walk away. You've got to give them time." Me, how much time, Amanda? It's been a year. How much longer do we have to wait for basic respect? She didn't have an answer, and neither did I. That night, as Ryan and I drove home, I couldn't help but feel defeated. "Maybe we should just stop going to these things," I said. "It's not worth the stress." Ryan shook his head. "It's your family. If you want to keep fighting for them, I'll be by your side. But if you're ready to walk away, I'll support that too." His words stuck with me. Was I ready to walk away, or was there still hope for reconciliation? The aftermath of Grandma's birthday party was more than I'd expected. I spent the next few days stewing over everything, replaying moments in my mind. Amanda's uncomfortable silence, Grandma's passive-aggressive remarks, Uncle Gary's rude comments, everything felt like it was building to something I couldn't control anymore. I'd been fighting for my place in the family for so long, but now it felt like I was the only one trying to make it work. Amanda and I didn't speak for a few days after the party. I needed space, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to face her. Her attempts to bridge the gap between me and the rest of the family had been half-hearted at best. Maybe she was trying, but it wasn't enough. My family, especially Grandma and Gary, didn't respect me or my relationship with Ryan, and it was becoming more and more clear that their acceptance came with conditions I wasn't willing to meet. The phone call came unexpectedly. Amanda, hey, I've been thinking. I know things got tense at Grandma's, and I'm sorry for not standing up more for you. I felt a small pang of hope, but I couldn't let my guard down just yet. It's not about you standing up for me, Amanda. It's about the fact that no one in this family seems to care about respecting me and Ryan. The way they act, it's like we're a problem to be tolerated, not family to be loved. There was a pause before she replied. Amanda, you're right. But the thing is, we don't have to keep fighting everyone. Maybe if we just give it some time, they'll come around. I felt a mix of frustration and exhaustion. Time? Amanda, how much longer do I have to wait for basic human decency? You don't get to ask me to keep waiting while they make me feel like I'm less than. She didn't respond immediately, and I could hear the soft sound of her breathing on the other end of the line. Amanda, I'm not asking you to wait forever. I'm just saying maybe we could try a different approach, like bringing Ryan to more casual family things, easing them into it. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. I've done that. I've given them every opportunity. But what I'm really tired of is everyone expecting me to hide parts of my life to make them comfortable. That's not fair to Ryan, and it's not fair to me. Later that evening, I told Ryan about the call. He was quiet for a long moment, processing what I'd said. Maybe it's not about changing them, Ryan said finally, his voice thoughtful. Maybe it's about deciding whether we're okay with keeping them in our lives, or if we're better off focusing on the people who do respect us. I had to admit, it was starting to sound more and more appealing. Maybe it was time to stop letting the people who couldn't accept us define how we felt about our relationship. But there was still a part of me that wasn't ready to give up on my family. Despite everything, I wanted to believe that they could change, that with enough time and effort, things could get better. A few days later, my mom called me, and this time, it wasn't to berate me. Mom, I've been thinking about what you said, and I wanted to apologize for not being more supportive. You're right. You shouldn't have to hide who you are to make anyone else feel comfortable. I've been quiet for too long, and it's time I stepped up. Her words were a small victory, but it didn't completely erase the damage. The fact that my mom was coming around felt like progress, but it didn't change the fact that the rest of the family was still so divided. The next family event was my cousin Sarah's birthday party, and it felt like the final test. Ryan and I debated whether or not we should go, but I decided that I wasn't going to let fear or discomfort dictate my choices anymore. We showed up together, my heart pounding in my chest. The moment we walked in, I could feel eyes on us, but instead of shrinking back, I stood tall. Amanda was there first, and when she saw us, she gave me a small, approving smile. Amanda, I'm glad you came. I nodded, still uncertain, but determined. We spent the evening trying to keep things as normal as possible. There were awkward moments, to be sure, especially when Grandma refused to acknowledge Ryan, but Sarah and my dad made it clear that they were in our corner. As we were leaving, Sarah pulled me aside. Sarah, you're not the one causing all this drama, you know. It's them. And you don't have to keep playing along just to make everyone else feel comfortable. It was the first time I felt like someone truly understood. That night, as Ryan and I drove home, I realized something. The only thing I could control was my own actions. I couldn't force my family to change, but I could choose how much of myself I was willing to give them. If they weren't ready to accept me for who I was, then I didn't need to keep trying to fit into their mold. I wasn't going to hide anymore. And if that meant stepping away from certain family members, then that was a choice I was ready to make. The days following Sarah's birthday party felt like a strange limbo. While part of me felt relieved, another part of me was overwhelmed by guilt. I had done what I needed to do, but it still felt like a betrayal of sorts. For most of my life, family had meant everything to me. To suddenly draw a line in the sand felt like a big step away from everything I had known. But as I tried to convince myself that it was the right thing to do, the reality began to settle in. My family wasn't going to change unless I made it clear that I wasn't going to put up with their prejudices anymore. Amanda had been texting me sporadically, sending messages about how we needed to talk and work things out. But each time, I felt the distance grow. Her apology had felt like a half-hearted gesture. She was sorry I was hurt, sure, but she wasn't truly acknowledging the way she had treated Ryan or the impact her silence had on me. And that, more than anything, felt like the real issue. One afternoon, I received a message from my mom. Mom, we need to talk. Can you come over tomorrow? Your dad is going to be here too. I wasn't sure what to expect. My heart rate quickened, a mixture of hope and dread building in my chest. Part of me wanted this to be the conversation that changed everything. I wanted my family to see reason. I wanted them to understand that I wasn't asking for special treatment, I just wanted respect. But deep down, I knew this conversation wasn't going to be easy. The next day, I showed up at my parents' house. My mom greeted me at the door with a warm hug, but there was a nervousness in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. I could tell that the weight of everything was starting to settle on her too. Mom, come sit. We need to talk about Amanda. I took a seat at the kitchen table, my eyes on her, waiting for whatever was coming next. Mom, I've been thinking about all this, and I see where you're coming from. But you need to understand that Amanda is just trying to protect her son. She's not homophobic, but she's scared about the questions Jack might ask. She's worried about him not understanding what's going on. I was trying hard not to let my frustration show. The same old excuses again. I understand that she's trying to protect Jack. But it's not about protecting him. It's about making sure he's not afraid of love. Love isn't something to hide, Mom. If she doesn't want him to be confused, she should be the one to talk to him about it, not ignore it and pretend I'm invisible. My mom's eyes softened, and she took a deep breath. Mom, you're right. But what do you want us to do? How do we fix this? It was the first time she had acknowledged that something needed to change, and I could feel the shift. I don't know if there's a quick fix, but I know that I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when I'm treated like I'm a problem. Ryan isn't going anywhere. He's part of my life, and he's part of this family now. If they can't accept that, I can't keep making excuses for them. My dad, who had been silent up until then, finally spoke. Dad, you're right. I've said from the start that this is about respect. And if they can't give you that, then it's on them. We can't keep letting them make you feel like you're the one who's wrong. It was the support I had been waiting for. My dad, always the quieter one, was backing me up. The weight on my shoulders suddenly felt lighter. The conversation didn't end with easy answers. My mom promised to talk to Amanda, and we agreed to revisit things after a few days. But as I left their house, I felt like a decision had been made, not just by my family, but by me. Ryan and I spent the next few days in quiet reflection. We both knew things weren't going to change overnight, but there was a sense of determination between us. We didn't have to keep fighting for a family that wasn't willing to meet us halfway. If we had to step away for a while, then that was what we'd do. A few days later, I got a message from Amanda. It was a simple, no-nonsense text. Amanda, we need to talk. Can you come by tomorrow? It's important. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear whatever she had to say, but I knew this conversation was inevitable. I just hoped it would be different from the last one. I spent the entire night before the meeting with Amanda going over everything in my head. I had no idea what she was going to say, but a part of me felt like this was my last shot at repairing any semblance of a relationship with her. Another part of me, however, was resigned. If she couldn't see the bigger picture, if she still couldn't get past her discomfort, then I was ready to walk away, no matter how hard it would be. Ryan and I had made a life together, and I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel like I had to choose between them and my family. The next afternoon, I drove to Amanda's house. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I was determined to stay calm and make sure I communicated my feelings without letting my emotions get the better of me. When I arrived, Amanda was already outside waiting for me, her expression tense but expectant. There was no warmth, no casual greeting. Just an immediate sense that the conversation was about to get real. Amanda, thanks for coming. I think we need to finally talk about everything. I nodded, steeling myself for whatever was to come. I've been waiting for this conversation. But I'm not here to argue, Amanda. I'm here because I want us to understand each other, finally. She looked away for a second, maybe trying to collect her thoughts, before she motioned for me to sit on the porch with her. Amanda, I know I've messed up. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. And I'm sorry for the way I handled things with Ryan. But you have to understand, I was just trying to protect Jack. He's my priority, and I didn't know how to deal with the fact that you have a boyfriend, let alone one who's a guy. Her words hit me harder than I expected. The apology was there, but it was tinged with the same hesitation that had been present in every other conversation about this topic. She was sorry, yes, but there was still that underlying judgment, that sense that she hadn't fully come to terms with my life. Amanda, I understand that you want to protect Jack. But do you honestly think that hiding who I am, pretending that Ryan doesn't exist, is the way to protect him? You don't protect kids by keeping them in the dark. You protect them by teaching them to understand and accept the world as it is. She crossed her arms, clearly uncomfortable with the directness of my words. Amanda, I didn't mean to make you feel like I was hiding you or your relationship. I didn't want Jack to ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. I didn't know how to explain it to him. And how do you think he's going to learn if you don't? Kids aren't as confused by love as we think they are. They understand what's real. But if we treat something as normal as a relationship like it's some taboo subject, we're the ones who confuse them. Amanda looked down, clearly wrestling with her thoughts. Amanda, I know I've been wrong. And I'm sorry for making you feel like I was ashamed of you. That was never my intention. But this is hard for me, okay? I'm just trying to be a good mom. The apology felt more genuine now, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still holding back. She wasn't fully willing to embrace the fact that my relationship with Ryan wasn't something to be apologized for. I get that you're trying to be a good mom. But part of being a good parent is teaching your kids to love and respect others, even when they don't fully understand. You can't shelter Jack from everything that doesn't fit into your idea of normal. You can't protect him from life by pretending it doesn't exist. She sighed deeply, her frustration and uncertainty clear. Amanda, I get it. I do. And I'm trying to change. But it's not easy for me. I'm scared, okay? I'm scared that I won't be able to explain it to Jack, that he'll be confused or hurt by something he doesn't understand. I don't want to do anything that might mess him up. There it was. The underlying fear that had been driving all of her actions. It wasn't just about me or Ryan, it was about her own fears of not being able to control how her son would react to a reality she hadn't fully processed herself. I can't make your decision for you, Amanda. But what I can tell you is that I won't hide who I am for anyone. Not for you, not for Jack, and not for anyone else. If you want me to be part of your family, then I need you to accept me for who I am, and not make me feel like I'm a burden or a problem to be solved. There was a long silence between us. I could feel the weight of everything that had been left unsaid. This wasn't just about Ryan or me. It was about Amanda coming to terms with her own biases, her own discomforts. Finally, she spoke again. Amanda, I want to make it work. I don't want to lose you. But I need time. I need time to really understand this, to figure out how I'm going to talk to Jack about it, and to come to terms with all of it. I'm not asking you to understand everything overnight, Amanda. I just need to know that you're willing to try. I'm here for you, but I can't keep being the one who has to bend to make everyone else comfortable. We need to meet each other halfway. Amanda nodded slowly, her eyes softening. Amanda, I'll try. I promise. I'm sorry. I should have been better about this from the start. Leaving her house that afternoon, I felt a sense of resolution. Things weren't perfect, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like my sister was truly trying. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew I had done everything I could to stand up for myself and for Ryan. As I drove home, I called Ryan, my heart lighter than it had been in weeks. We might be getting somewhere. Amanda's trying. Ryan, that's all we can ask for, right? I smiled. Yeah. That's all we can ask for. The weeks following that conversation with Amanda were an emotional roller coaster. I had hoped for instant resolution, but of course, things didn't change overnight. It wasn't just about acceptance, it was about unlearning years of discomfort and fear, and that takes time. Amanda did her best, but there were moments when she faltered, moments when the old, unspoken judgments crept back in. The first family event after our talk was awkward, to say the least. Amanda was polite, but you could tell she was still navigating her emotions. Ryan and I showed up, and I saw her eyes dart toward us a few times, but she didn't comment. She didn't make a scene, which was progress, but there was still that uncomfortable tension hanging in the air. I could tell that the thought of explaining our relationship to Jack was weighing heavily on her. Still, we were in a much better place than we had been a few weeks ago. Amanda did try, though. She made a point to include Ryan in more family events, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was the other in my own family. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I didn't have to fight for acceptance anymore. My family was slowly starting to understand that my relationship with Ryan wasn't something to be fixed. It just was.